Welcome to Metro Talk. I'm Kent Scheffel. Thanks for being with us. Jim Schrader, the publisher of The Telegraph, is here as well. Welcome, Jim.
Hi, guys.
And Pat Gowan, one of the editors with the Post-Dispatch, is alongside. Welcome, Pat.
I can't.
Pat, the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation held a hearing in Alton last week on people being sent to jail for not paying their taxes, for not paying their debts, I should say, not their taxes, but their debts in general.
It's next.
It's next, okay. Bottom line is, are we at the point where we should be sending people to jail for not paying their bills?
Well, it's a step removed from that, you understand. What they're being sent to jail for is not paying their debts. What they're being sent to jail for is not showing up in court to answer when they're being sued over the debts. If the court sends me a summons and says the people you owe money have taken you to court and you've got to appear at such and such a date and such a time to represent yourself, I might be inclined to say, well, the heck with that. I don't have any resources. I can't afford a lawyer. What good does this do? I'm in so deep it doesn't matter, and I ignore it. And then the judge may or may not issue a warrant for my arrest, and I end up being arrested and put in jail for contempt of the order that I was supposed to be in court. If I go to court and I can't pay the debts, it's not like the judge is saying, well, you go to prison until the debt's paid, which is like something of yore, but nothing in modern America. So I guess part of the problem is educating people about not ignoring a court summons. It'd be very easy to do in that circumstance if you don't have two nickels to rub together. Why am I going to go to court to explain this? I'm just going to default on everything anyway. Go ahead and take it without realizing that there is that extra liability of being hauled off to jail for ignoring the court. So I guess the idea of these hearings is to try to gather information on what can be done to address this with the courts, what can be done to address this with the individuals, to better educate people that the force of law is the force of law, and effectively to prevent people from going to jail, because there's nothing about putting somebody in jail who's going to improve his ability to pay anything. I think we learned that generations ago. And there's nothing about putting someone in jail that's cost effective for cash-strapped taxpayers, another mouth to feed and another jail cell filled up. The whole thing is against anybody's best interest. The trick is to make sure that you've got a system worked out so that you don't have people accidentally running afoul of the law.
Jim, should people be going to jail if they're not paying their debts?
On this one, I would have to say it depends. If somebody is, as Pat is saying, is willfully ignoring a summons to court and shall we say willfully ran up debts, and by willfully, you know, they've got a gambling debt that they've run up, or they've done this with the intent to deceive, then I can understand where the punishment might be jail time. The lady that we interviewed when we covered this story, first of all said she received she had medical bills that she could not pay, and she was trying to pay some amounts on them, and she got behind. She says that she never received a court summons. Well, when she did not show up for the court date, a warrant was sworn out for her arrest. They swore out, when they served the warrant, they put her in jail. She didn't know about the court date because she said she never received notification, and certainly didn't know that there was a warrant for her arrest. Then you end up in jail. She already doesn't have the money to pay the medical bills, and then she lost time from work because she was in jail and had to figure out how to hire a lawyer to get her out of jail, and so on and so forth. So, but those to me are a little different deal. That was kind of out of her realm of responsibility a bit. If someone has purposely run up a bunch of debts, you're not going to get paid any sooner if they're in jail. But when you have that intent to deceive, I can understand that the courts are going to say, wait a minute, you knew what you were doing here, and now you're just going to try to, you know, blow it off and pay no attention to the law here. We're going to punish you in addition.
But if you have an intent to deceive, that's a crime.
Oh,
so you
yeah.
prosecute that as fraud, you can put people in jail for fraud. That's different
Right.
from putting them in jail for debt. So even if they've got intent to deceive, I don't think a warrant through the civil court is the proper way to put them in jail. Put them in jail by charging them with fraud if you can prove it. But otherwise, when someone lends me money, they're taking a significant amount of risk. And if they lend me unsecured money, they're taking a lot more risk, and that's just the way the business world operates.
But we accomplish nothing by putting anybody in jail when you're trying to recoup losses. one of the frustrations that you would hear in this area, without going into specifics, is the cases where people have defrauded different organizations or different church groups or different club organizations. Their sentence was probation and restitution, and then there's no restitution made, or restitution doesn't appear to be the top priority. In a case like that, I could lean towards maybe putting that person in jail, because if they're not going to try to make amends, try to pay that money back, then maybe the punishment needs to be jail time as opposed to a probation and restitution.
It's one thing to not have the means to pay it back. It's another thing to just intentionally not
have the intent to pay it back. It's like, okay, what are you going to do? I have no assets, you can't come get me, and I'm not going to try to pay you back.
I think your two underlying messages. One is, if you've got debt you can't manage, that you're better off, at least the experts say, I'm not an expert, but the experts will tell you you're better off to be proactive, to go to the people you owe money, tell them what the situation is, and try to work out some kind of arrangement, and that you've done everything you can do, and that stands you in pretty good stead, theoretically. Now, the other side of that is we've got to have creditors held accountable by law or common sense to work with the people who otherwise can't pay them. There is no blood in a turnip, and trying to squeeze it is not going to be the answer for them either. I've been amazed through the entire economic crisis at banks that have refused to work with people in saving their houses. At a time when you cannot sell foreclosed real estate in many places, that a bank would choose foreclosure over forgiving or restructuring a debt for someone who'd be able to pay some lesser amount is beyond my comprehension. And yet, I think it continues to go on. And it seems like maybe there ought to be legislation there, something to enforce the other side of that equation. So even if you can't pay your debt, show some responsibility for it, but on the other side, they've got to accept your showing of responsibility and work with you on that side too. And a lot of our problems like this would be solved by those two elements.
I would rather have somebody paying a little bit on the balance than just saying, well, there's nothing I can do, come get my
I'm
house.
gonna throw you out in the street and I'm gonna let the house sit vacant. And I saw something on TV the other day about real estate in a neighborhood, I think it was in Detroit, but I'm not sure, where there are not for sale signs on all the houses for sale because it's too scary for the would-be buyers. So when you go into the neighborhood, there might be a for sale sign on 1 or 2 of 20 houses, but 15 of them might be for sale. It's just they don't want you to realize it because it'll spook you out of the deal.
We need to take a quick break. We'll have more Metro Talk in a moment.
Hello and welcome to the Lewis and Clark Minute. Today we're going to check out the music program with Dr. Teresa Crane.
Have you always wanted to learn how to play the piano? Maybe you wanted to learn Beethoven's Für Elise. Or maybe you like a more popular style like Jim Brickman. Or maybe you like jazzy blues. You can learn all this and more right here at Lewis and Clark Community College.
This has been your Lewis and Clark Minute.
When you open a book, you can explore new lands, make new friends, and discover new adventures. There are amazing possibilities when you open your mind to reading. Explore new worlds. Read.
60-inch screen, high definition. Football season is coming up. You can watch it right here. What do you think?
I'll take it.
Huh? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
You're right. I don't need it.
You're watching Metro Talk. I'm Kent Scheffel. Jim Schrader and Pat Gowan are here. Jim, Madison County Auditor Rick Fasten said last week that Madison County has now lost $443,000 in interest income and has paid another $37,000 in legal fees, all as part of Kurt Prensler's decision to liquidate $41 million in long-term investments. Is this story ever going to die, or should it die? Should it stay in front of us?
Is it ever going to die? As long as one side of the party has a D behind his name and the other side of the party has an R behind its name, it's not going to die in the foreseeable future. Ever since Treasurer Prensler took his position, I guess a year and a half ago now, and chose to sell those bonds, which he thought was in violation of the rules or the guidelines of the Treasurer's office because they were extended out more than 15 years. We have reported, I don't know how many numbers that we've gotten from different people on what the county either allegedly saved by liquidating early or it cost the county after the fact. So somewhere between Kurt Prensler's action saved the county some money or we're losing $443,000 to date lies the truth, and I'm not sure what the truth is. The Republican Party would have you believe that basically Prensler's action minimized some of the losses and that there's a lawsuit to go after the people that handled the bond transactions in Arkansas, as I believe, to try to recoup some of those fees and losses. That's where the $37,000 in legal fees so far have been mounting up. State's Attorney Gibbons has said that he could find no wrongdoing on Kurt Prensler's parts, which is why he's representing Prensler in another lawsuit, which was early dismissal or firing of the two people that made the transactions under former Treasurer Batten. The Democrats don't like the idea that there is a Republican on a elected county position of treasurer, and they would like to reseat a Democrat in upcoming elections. So they're going to continue to nip at Prensler's heels. I wish I knew what the real number was. I would like to know if the county has lost $443,000. I would like to know that if the county actually saved what could have defaulted. I'd like to know what the real number is. But it's like, who do you believe at the state level when somebody's telling you what the deficit is? Or who do you believe at the federal level when somebody tells you what a new program is going to cost the taxpayers? Nobody really knows. There's numbers floating around, and it's the old, figures lie and liars figure. I can get the number to come up to something that either casts a positive light or casts a negative light. This one's not going to go away. The Democrats are going to continue to come after a Republican. In this case, Kurt Prensler, who is a Republican and is the current treasurer, and the Democrats are going to continue to come after him.
Pat, are we going to see this story die anytime soon, or should it die? Should it remain in front of the public so that the public's aware of this?
Well, whether the public should be aware or whether it wants to be aware, it's going to be made aware at regular intervals. I think that's clear. One of the questions that's never been answered and probably won't be answered is, did Prensler fire his predecessor's employees because they made these investments, and did he then sell the investments? Or did he sell the investments to justify having fired the partisan employees of his predecessor? And the Democrats will raise that question, but no one really knows except Prensler in his heart, I suppose. Whenever Republicans gotten into countywide office in Madison County, it's been a terrible affront to the Democrats. Prensler has sort of made the mistake, if it is a mistake, and maybe it's not a mistake, but he's taken a bold move in any event, best language to describe it. He's done a bold thing that has given the Democrats a way to criticize him. And for the most part, the occasional Republican who gets in office, John Shimkus, was county treasurer, and he did not generate very much controversy. The Democrats didn't like that he was there, but his performance was such that I don't recall that they ever had anything that they could use against him. But boy, people think that Prensler has stepped in it, and they want to remind everybody how bad it smells, and that's going to go on. And unfortunately for Prensler, it's a moving target. One of the reasons that we don't know how much they've lost or the exact circumstance is because as time goes on with these bonds, the amount we would have made increases, or maybe the amount of risk increases, and I don't think we're ever going to know the full story until the bonds have run their full term, and that's a lot of years yet from now. So at any given point, you could have a story today about this. It might have a different number than it had last week because it is a continually moving target, which means at any point the Democrats can rise up and say, well, now look at the latest number that Prensler's cost us. If you think it's bad now, wait till Prensler's running for re-election. You're going to hear a lot more about this in another 2 years or so. But for now, I don't think it has a lot of meaning. If you're familiar with the story, you understand the circumstances and the players, I don't think any news has come out over this, and I don't think any news is going to come out over this for some time to come. It's just going to be a new number with all the same facts that underlie it. And if you're a Democrat, you're going to believe what the Democrats say. If you're a Republican, you believe what the Republicans say. And at the end, at some point, we simply have to move on from what was done.
Jim, some political observers are saying that the tax increase approved by Illinois lawmakers in 2011 is not going to be allowed to expire in 2014.
What?
Plus, the Senate minority leader is saying that the unemployment rate's up, the business climate is worse, and the state's financial situation is no better, so the tax should be allowed to expire based on what she's saying. Bottom line is that tax going to remain in place, or is it going to expire in 2014?
I think in 1979 there was a half-cent sales tax that went into effect in Madison County that was going to pay for capital developments, and that was supposed to expire in like 5 years or something like that. It's still on the books, 32 years later. This tax is not going to go away. Anybody who believes that was pretty gullible when they were told at the time that it would expire, that it would sunset. I didn't believe it at the time. I don't believe it at the time. I remember asking Senator Hayne and Representative Beiser if they really thought that it would sunset, and both of them said, yes, we have assurances from the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House that this will sunset. And Senator Hayne went on to say there is no way, in his position as senator, that he would vote to keep it in place, that unless things improved, that he absolutely would vote to repeal the tax. But that's just one amongst many. I believe that the tax increase will remain in effect, and I don't think there's any way it will sunset in 3 years.
Pat, are we going to see the 2011 tax increase go away in 2014? Some state political observers say they think it won't happen.
What sort of underlies this is that we're snickering at it. We're laughing at them saying, silly us if we ever believed it, silly them for doing that. The answer to the state's economic problem, the only viable answer to the state's economic problem is a general economic recovery. Only when more people are employed, when more employers are paying more taxes, will the state situation turn around. I don't know anybody who disagrees with that. That is the ultimate fix. I also don't know anybody who knows when that's going to happen. And if something robust had occurred between the time that tax was enacted and the time that tax expired, then maybe it would have been possible to rescind it and say, okay, the revenue stream is possible again. What's going to happen is it'll be re-upped. It has to be. The state would collapse without it, and economic situation is not going to be good enough soon enough to go without it. But the question then becomes, will we have a sunset on the next one, or will we just make it permanent? And I think a logical thing to say would be to sunset the next one. 3 years out, maybe the economy be in good enough shape we can do without it, maybe it won't, but it will provide the frame of debate when the time comes when the state might be able to walk without ride the bike without the training wheels of that tax increase. The time may come when we'll be glad there's a sunset on it, when it doesn't just languish there. So I don't want to be too quick to poke fun at the sunset. It didn't happen in the first period of time, maybe it'll happen in the second period of time. I also want to address that the Senate's minority leader is complaining about the economic conditions. Well, he's a Republican. The majority in the Senate and the House in Illinois, and the State House, the governor's office, are all run by Democrats. So the man is going to be a contrarian by his political position. He's not going to be singing the praises of what the other parties accomplished. So I don't know how right he is or wrong. But even if he is right, if I got a hole in my rowboat and I'm bailing and you're standing there saying, you know, we're taking on more water, let's just stop bailing, I don't know that that's the answer. You know, maybe while the bailing may not be making things that much better, maybe it's keeping things from being a whole lot worse. And they never seem to look at that side of it either. So yeah, the tax is going to continue maybe for another sunset out for the day when it doesn't have to, and I think we ought to swallow the pill. I encourage anybody who wants to continue cutting state government to pick the state program on which he or she depends the most. Pick something, any department, any service, and stand up and say, I want to cut that one. Because for everything the state does, there is someone for whom that is the most important thing the state does. And when you try to reach consensus, if you're not willing to cut your own program, it's pretty hard to stand there and say, but I do want to cut your program, when you say, wait a minute. And that's kind of the point where we are right now. So when people talk about cutting, I want to hear them identify their favorite programs and cut those.
We'll have more Metro Talk right after this.
Hello and welcome to the Lewis and Clark Minute. Today we're going to check out the radio broadcasting program and WLCA with Mike Lemons.
Have you ever listened to your favorite radio station or your favorite disc jockey and say, you know, I could do that? Or maybe you're the type of person who says, I could never do something like that. Well, with the help of first-year Mass Comm student John, we're going to show you just how easy it is. Each voice intro starts with talking about the band that just played, and we add a station identifier. Next, you want to offer some information that may be of interest to your audience. And finally, tell the listeners what the next song is, who sings it, followed by another station identifier. John will do one live now.
Silver Sun Pickup substitution on WLCA. The Big Pink released their debut album called A Brief History of Love. This single is off that album. It's The Big Pink with Dominoes. It's on College Radio's Best 89.9.
This has been your Lewis and Clark Minute.
What's that? I don't know. Something I kind of made. Ooh, what's it do?
What do I do? Well, thanks for asking. I ring my bell and I like to dance. What do I do? Well, thanks for asking.
Ow! Yeah, it still needs a little work.
Anything's possible. Keep thinking. Get started on your own inventions or just play some games at inventnow.org.
Sounds like you could use some Van Gogurt. It's fortified with arts-rich nutrients to improve your math and reading skills. Catch!
Van Gogurt, thanks. So what's the deal with your ear?
Always with the ear, huh?
Feed your kids the arts. For 10 simple ways to learn how, visit AmericansForTheArts.org.
You're watching Metro Talk. I'm Kent Scheffel. Jim Schrader and Pat Gowan are here. Pat, Congressman Tim Johnson, whose district now extends into Madison County, he wants to see changes made in the way Congress is funded, the way it operates. He says that there should be limits on the number of days Congress is in session. Says representatives should be allowed to have jobs outside of Congress. He wants to see congressmen's salaries cut in half. Should all of this happen? Will it all happen?
When I was in high school, I was involved in competitive debate, and there was a debate topic that had a social issue and a presumption that something should be done. And then both sides would debate whether something should be done and how it would be accomplished. And one of the tenets of this was that your plan to accomplish it had to be practical. And the example they used was that the debate topic was that the sparrows of the city should be eliminated. They are making a mess. But if that were the topic, you were not allowed to propose flying cats, because cats can't be made to fly. So while a flying cat might solve the problem, your solution to the problem has to be practical when you debate it. It has to be something that theoretically could be done. I believe that Congressman Johnson is proposing flying cats. There is no way on earth that there's no mechanism. There may be great political will, but there's no mechanism to accomplish these kinds of things. So he's taking some flack from critics who say, well, he's just garnering votes, he's posturing, he's trying to pander to people who who want pie-in-the-sky solutions to problems that aren't really the most important problems anyway. You're not going to save a whole lot of money in the grand scheme of things by doing this. This may be a really dandy thing to do, but I don't see any practical road that leads from here to there.
Jim, does it make sense to cut congressmen's salaries, to limit their office budgets, to limit the number of days there in Washington?
If I am Republican Congressman Timothy Johnson, and I know that there's not a snowball's chance in Hades for this to pass, and I'm in the minority party, and I'm trying to posture myself as looking great to my constituents, I'm going to propose a whole lot of things that aren't going to fly, and one of which is going to sound really good, that I'm going to volunteer to cut my own pay, and I'm going to volunteer to not live quite as high on the public hog as I have in the past, when he knows it's not going to happen. Base salary for a congressman is $174,000, so if you cut it in half, it's $87,000, which is still a pretty handsome living. But it's not going to happen. Congressman Johnson knows it's not going to happen. By the way, Congressman Johnson has been living on the public dole most of his career, too, being elected to his first office at the age of 25, I believe. I think he's been in Congress for like 20 years, so he's done pretty well for himself. I don't see him willing to write a check for $87,000 to donate it back to the state to pay other fees. It is absolutely political posturing. He knows it, everybody else knows it, but he got ink in my paper, he got ink in the Post-Dispatch, and he got ink all over the state for what is just a preposterous idea which would never fly.
Jim makes a very good point. Nothing prevents him from giving half his pay back. Nothing prevents him from giving half his office budget back and laying off half his people. This can be done. He could be setting the example for how it could be done. You know, and I was going to say, well, it's not practical to be the only one, but maybe he'd get the snowball effect going. Maybe others would follow suit if he would do it. He could try.
There are county office holders that refused their increase that was mandated by law, and they said, no, thank you, I will deny it. Well, they said, we have to pay it because it's in a payroll system. They then wrote a check back to the county for the difference. Congressman Johnson could do the same thing.
That's going to do it for this round of Metro Talk. Thanks for being with us. Jim Schrader, the publisher of The Telegraph, has been here, along with Pat Gowan, one of the editors with the Post-Dispatch. I'm Kent Scheffel. We'll see you next time.